Hi guys, welcome to Quaderno. Like a notebook, blankness is a space for ideas, thoughts, musings, and most of all, connection. Come draw your experiences with us. Write down your thoughts, relate, and connect. Your story is meant to be shared. What's up, guys? Margella here, and welcome to Quaderno episode 26. Today, we are talking about being an introvert. And today, I'm joined with another fellow introvert, Giselle, my good friend Giselle, way back in nursing school. Before we get into the topic, though, I'd like Giselle to introduce herself.
Hi, my name's Giselle. Uh, Margella and I met in nursing school. I don't even know how many years that was. I'm saying it like it's been so long, but it's actually
Six.
6 years.
Six.
Yeah, yeah. And I think when we both met, we were both like really quiet and shy.
Oh, yeah.
And
Nursing has changed us.
yeah, well, it took a long time for us to
Mm-hmm.
even like really connect and like really get to know each other too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful friendship, I would say, right?
I would, you know, what's funny? We're like so alike in a lot of ways,
Mm-hmm.
and in the beginning, we didn't even realize it, right?
I know. We just grew together, and it's the bubble tea that binded us
Yeah, yeah,
during our deep conversations. And I think that's one aspect that we both have as introverts. We both enjoy we both listening and also having these deep conversations that sometimes can get tiring but fulfilling at the same
yeah.
time. Yeah. So, Giselle, I know you read the book Quiet. What
Hmm.
drew you into that book, first and foremost?
Well, at first, I was kind of like hesitant to read it because I thought it was gonna be like kind of approaching it from um like maybe like a too emotional way
Mm-hmm.
or maybe like in a shallow way, you know, because we've heard of a lot of like misconceptions about introverts. And I just wasn't sure what kind of book it was going to be. But I think starting this year, I just really wanted to learn more about myself. And a big part of that is learning about my personality.
Mm-hmm.
So that book really stood out to me at that point in time when I wanted some answers, I guess, for like some
Oh,
questions I was having. So when I started to read the book, I realized that it was a lot more like research heavy,
yeah, same.
uh, which actually helped me a lot because I think it just helps me um, kind of like put there was like a more concrete way of understanding an introvert
Mm-hmm.
because I think kind of growing up, like introverts would just be labeled as like the shy, quiet kid. And
Exactly.
yeah, and then reading the book, they talk a lot about like the biology and like the psychology behind
Yeah.
um, the different personality types, introversion and extroversion. And I just felt like, whoa, this isn't just um, like a social thing. It's also like biologically, this is the type of person that I am. So it was
Mm-hmm.
really comforting in that way. That's like, I'm not,
Definitely.
yeah, it's like, oh, I'm not just a weirdo who prefers to stay indoors and read. Like it's actually the way I was like made. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so that's why I really like the book.
Mm-hmm. It's definitely an eye opener. There's a lot of factors, nature versus nurture. That was a common theme throughout the book. I read this book because I found that I was in a Kumu Big Streamer, right,
Yeah,
contest, and there was
good
this
job on that.
one. Oh, thank you. But there was this one guy who is like really sad that he's an introvert, and
Mm,
deep inside me, I'm like, I want to empower you and to see
mm,
your strength as an introvert. I think there's this pressure that being an extrovert is the way to go to survive and
For
to
sure.
thrive in this world. And I think this book is one of the books that really, even though it's really research heavy, and I honestly find it hard to read sometimes,
Mm. Mm-hmm.
but it does show a lot of not just qualities of introverts but also extroverts, and how we can or
Mm.
are able to interact with each other and utilize each other's strengths. And so I
Mm-hmm.
think the reason why I read this is to learn more about um, us introverts, and potentially empower others to see that not not be ashamed to be who they are. Like, I love how
They really
you are
are.
discovering
Mm-hmm.
yourself and embracing it and finding the answers, actively doing so. So good for you,
Mm-hmm.
G.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
What kind of going back to the guy you were talking about from Kumu, why was he sad about it?
I'm not entirely sure, but like, we were sharing in this stream, and then he was crying actually, and
Mm.
then he said, I'm too shy. I can't, I like, right here you can see me singing and live streaming and being like an extrovert, but in real life it's hard for me to connect with people. As far as I remember, that's what he said in between those lines. But yeah, it's like he's wearing a mask, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I think honestly, as introverts, easier to connect online. I
Mm-hmm.
think it's easier, like, right. But there, like, I like how you said there are misconceptions, and there is a difference between being shy and being an
Yeah.
introvert, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you mind sharing what do you know the difference between being shy and other misconceptions that we have as being as introverts?
Mm-hmm. Uh, I'm actually both. I would say I'm both shy and
Yeah.
introverted.
Mm-hmm.
um, kind of from the book, they made like she distinguished between like being shy is usually more of like you're self-conscious of how other people perceive you,
Yeah.
and you're kind of wary about putting yourself out there because you don't want to be judged.
Yeah.
Whereas introvert is you're not necessarily scared of the judgment. It's more of maybe you hold back because you want to think a little bit more about what you're saying, or maybe the topic is sometimes maybe it's too shallow for you and
Yeah.
you'd rather, yeah, you don't say anything because you have nothing to say about it. Whereas if you were actually engaged in a conversation that you were deeply interested in and really made you think, you'll probably say a lot of things. um, and again, it's a lot of people, you've sent me some of the answers um, online when you were asking other people about being introverts. And a lot of them were saying that it's also a part of how you use your energy or how you get your energy back.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so introverts can also just be quiet, not because, again, not because they're shy, but maybe because they've had too much stimulation at, let's say, a party or at work, and now they're just like tired.
Yeah.
And now they just don't have like the energy left to carry on a conversation,
Mm-hmm.
because they've already talked so much.
Yeah,
um,
exactly.
yeah,
They become overstimulated that
yeah,
you won't get out anything from them. And
right.
I find that even in Instagram, they were saying, "Oh, it depends on the people I hang around with."
Mm-hmm.
So I think depending on the energy vibes that you're around with too, right?
Yeah, for
Introverts
sure.
can act like extroverts, and I honestly don't like labeling. You know,
Mm,
I mean, there's a tendency for us to lean towards this kind of introvert extrovert, but it's not a black and white. I believe there is a spectrum.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I think so too. Like, yeah, like going back to being shy versus introverted, like I just happen to be both. But I
Mm-hmm.
also know some extroverted people who are shy. And
Yeah.
sometimes, like growing up, I didn't quite understand that
Right.
because I'd have a friend who's like so outgoing and like talkative and love to talk to people. But then as soon as the teacher like asks for somebody to do something in front of the class, all of a sudden they're like, I don't want to do it, And I'm like, what? Why? but
Right.
then, but now I kind of realize that like, oh, okay, like shy and introvert aren't the same thing. And again, it just like falls on that spectrum because like a lot, even though we're both introverts, we're both very different too,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Like I think even right now, it's pretty surprising that we're even having a podcast,
Yeah.
right? Because there's
Yeah.
definitely introverts who wouldn't want to put themselves out there in a podcast way.
Mm-hmm. Or
Um,
even speak, but they are able
exactly.
to.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So we're all very different,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah.
I think what really stood out to me in the book is that if an introvert per se finds something really close to their heart and is passionate about, they would go out of
Mm,
their way to do what it takes. It depends on the values, to do what it takes to execute whatever their vision is, or their mission. So I
mm-hmm.
think that really stood out to me. And I think she called it personal core projects,
Oh
and
yeah.
I'd go over that later.
Mm,
I think though another misconception is that um, we don't get lonely
mm.
because imagine the introvert just being in the room and they'll be so la 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 di da, you're happy for yourself, but sometimes you get lonely, you
Yeah.
know. Gotta be honest, right? Geez, that's why we
Right.
have friends,
Yeah.
close and tight knit friends.
Or maybe even if it's not necessarily lonely, the misconception that they don't like being around other people.
Oh yeah, that one.
Yeah, which is not true. Because, like you said
Yeah.
before, like introverts tend to enjoy the company of people that um, kind of share their same values and people that they feel there just has to be like a deeper connection there for
Mhm.
introverts to feel more comfortable to hang
Mhm.
out with people.
Mhm.
But I don't know if this is just like me, but I think another thing that I like to do is just like being with someone without having to talk to them.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I don't know, because there's other people that as soon as you're in a room together, you can't be quiet. They feel like that awkwardness, that the awkward silence, right? But
Yeah.
yeah, but I feel like for me, sometimes when we're driving in the car, like you're driving and like, we're there with Ada. Shout out to Ada.
Hey, Ada. Whoop, whoop. Wish you were here.
Yeah, there's times in the car, who's also an introvert, by the way. There's times
Mhm.
in the car where we're just quiet and it doesn't feel awkward. And I think it's
No.
because, yeah, right? Like, I think it's because we're all introverts and we all are close enough and trust each other that we don't have to talk. We can just enjoy our company.
Yeah, and just the presence of just you guys riding my my car
Yeah.
and just like music playing, right? I
Mm-hmm.
think another one is I think commonly deep talks, yes.
Mm.
But I think I know some extroverts that enjoy deep talks as well.
For
Yeah.
extroverts,
But
yeah.
yeah, yeah. So
Uh-huh.
in that aspect, yeah. But I think generally, yes, maybe introverts have preference for deeper conversations, and yeah, but there are extroverts that enjoy the deep combos as well. So it's
Mm-hmm.
really entirely like it's just how amazing how each and every one of us are
Yeah.
so different and complex,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just a matter of experiences and how we're brought up and our genetics, just like what you said before and stuff. And
Yeah. I think
mhm.
that can actually be a really nice compliment, like to an introverted person, being around an extrovert who likes to have like a thoughtful conversation. Because sometimes I think introverts kind of need someone to kind of start the conversation or like get the ball rolling. And
Mhm.
sometimes it's really nice to be around like an extroverted person who can kind of like come up to you first. Or maybe I'm just saying that as like a shy person. But uh yeah, I thinking about it now, it is nice to have that spectrum and just
Mm-hmm.
like having the complement, like different personalities complement each other.
Yeah. Have you ever been thought that you're an extrovert?
I think more around like certain circles of friends.
Right? Yeah,
Like
some people.
yeah, like probably not in school or not at work with people who like don't really know me as well. But I think in the past when I've been around a group of friends, and of course, like I feel close to them, so I'd be more loud than what
Mm?
other people may expect. And then those friends bring their friends along, and those friends that don't really know me end up thinking I'm an extrovert. But really, it's only because I'm around a group of people that I feel comfortable with.
Yeah, exactly. I've been thought of as an extrovert, to be honest, but I would say that I think I lean more of the into the introvert. It depends on the setting too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like when you said the friends and stuff. I know I asked before on Instagram that they said they're both, and
Ambiverts, yeah.
yeah, they're both. So I think I have a switch. When I'm on nursing mode, I'm like, I think nursing mode, I try to balance between being one and being the other, like introvert and
Mm-hmm.
extrovert, because I think, how our jobs are. We need to connect with people and know what their needs, and at the same time, listen to them and,
Mm-hmm.
and learn how to be more mindful and pause. So
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a big factor of who I am right now.
Mm.
Yeah, really, really big, yeah,
I was
change.
actually quite surprised when you said you were an introvert.
Yeah?
I
When?
guess now,
Now?
because I see all the things that you're doing. You know, like you were on the Kumu live streamers. You're
You're right.
you're doing your podcast. And you also know a lot of people.
That's
Like
true.
you have a lot of friends, and I'm like,
That's true.
like every time you have a new podcast, I'm like, huh, she has another new guest. And like for me, if I had a podcast, I don't know enough people to have a different guest each time. At least not personally, anyways. But
Mm-hmm.
so I think when I first met you, I thought like, okay, she's introverted like me. And then when I got to know you more, I kind of felt like, oh, maybe she's more of an ambivert, just because of like all the social things that you do. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, but I agree that sometimes there is that switch that you need to turn on, and just kind of looking at the people's responses online. A lot of people felt like they couldn't really be themselves, or like they were wearing a mask because of it. And I think though that having that switch isn't exactly unique to introverts. I kind of think it's just more of adulting actually. Just because
Mm-hmm.
as we get older, we take on more responsibilities and more roles, and each role is going to require something different from us, like a different side of us. Um, so it's not, maybe it's not necessarily have to be a mask. Maybe it's just a different version of yourself that you have to put out there, or maybe a different part of yourself that you have to use in that moment to kind of meet that responsibility at the time. But I think also it kind of makes me more appreciative though of the close relationships in my life where they know me. Like they know me outside of like those different versions of myself, that
Mm-hmm.
it's nice that they just kind of see me as me.
Yeah. Oh, that's so beautiful, Giselle. And just going back to like where I am at now with these social things, I think it's I want to connect with people.
Mhm.
I love people.
And
Although at
stories.
time and stories, right? I told you this
Mhm.
before. So I love listening. all I find it hard though right now. I feel like I'm giving and giving, and I'm just striking a balance of trying to mindfully rest because my
Mm-hmm.
energy does get depleted.
Mm-hmm.
So with these goals that I have in mind, and honestly, what I see is purpose. I really try to balance the giving and the receiving, of my the energy that I give off. And but I really love people, so even though I know sometimes they're annoying, but but you
You
know
know,
what I mean.
sometimes, yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean. But yeah, it's just it's a value that is close to me. That's I am hesitant to be in the spotlight. I think that's another thing for introverts. I think as at least for me, I don't like being in the spotlight. I don't like being recognized. I don't like the idea of fame and money and the lures of that. But like if I have a conviction that I want to fight for, I would do what it takes in or and what is uncomfortable for me. Like right now it's uncomfortable for me. It's like I don't even know why I'm doing this, but because I believe in something, that's why I
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, but it's so nice though to be able to be with people who allow you to be who you are. Like I'm so
Yeah.
blessed to have you and Ada to just who just
Aw,
support me in this,
I
you
feel the
know.
same way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh
I mean, just I think just going back to you're kind of touching on that like core personal project from the book, right?
my
Where
god.
I think in the book there was a professor who um like was well known and everybody liked him and he was really great at his job. And he was also very humorous in the way that he taught. But he after teaching he would have to like go to the washroom and just be alone for a few minutes, or like he would
Yeah.
take lunch by himself. um, and yeah, a lot of people were surprised that he was introverted, because he seemed so extroverted in what he was doing, but he was only able to be extroverted in that moment because he had a purpose of what he wanted to do, and the only way to achieve that goal was to kind of be an extrovert. And I think that's kind of, it sounds like that's kind of what you mean as well, where you have a bigger goal in mind, that you want to achieve. So you do have to play that part of, or being in the spotlight at least.
But I really want to share the spotlight to everyone and just empower. And
Mm-hmm.
I think I think I am doing it to share people's stories. So I'm glad you're open to share your story, Giselle. I guess now that we're talking about stories, I want to ask you, and I love this question of yours. What were you like as a child? Did you always know you were an introvert?
Um, I've always been shy and quiet as a kid. I didn't really know about introversion and like personality types until maybe high school. But yeah, I've always been shy, and that's always the way that people have viewed me and labeled me. Um, and I feel like this is something that like shy or introverted people always hear. You're so quiet.
Yeah, I know.
And I think as a kid, like I kind of cringed a bit when I heard that, because then we do have that the extrovert ideal in our
Mm.
culture, right? Where I think you said earlier too that sometimes it's perceived like it's better to be extroverted. So kind of being labeled as the shy and quiet kid in class, it kind of made you feel like a bit bad about yourself,
Mm-hmm.
like insecure that like, oh, how come I can't be like those other kids,
Those
you know?
popular kids who are friends
Yeah,
with everyone.
yeah, yeah.
Every
It kind of made you feel bad, and I think one of the things I learned through the book too, that it's not, you're not wrong, you're not bad for being quiet. And I think now that when somebody tells me I am quiet, I'm just like, yeah, I am. And not necessarily because I don't like the person who's talking.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It can just be, again, the different reasons I stated before. Maybe I'm thinking about something else. Maybe, again, the conversation isn't something that interests me, which in a way sounds bad, but I think for introverts, to get introverts to speak more, they have to be really intrigued and invested in the subject. Um, but yeah, I was definitely a quiet kid. How
Aw.
about you? How are you
Oh,
like?
oh yeah. I was both shy and introverted. I like activities like writing and
Mm,
reading books. Just
mhm.
stayed at home, but I
Same.
did play with my cousins and all that too.
Mm,
Um, but I really liked just being in my head, creating poems, stories.
mhm.
Um, I I even ran for president though, but
Wow.
yeah, when I was in grade 1, and my mom didn't know that I ran for president, and then I won. So she was surprised. but I th-
Yay.
but even then, looking back, I think I had these tendencies that are just unexpected, you
Mm,
know. But I think even back then it's just mm, I knew I was an introvert straight up, and I need that time for me, for my space. When you're in the flow, I remembered reading in the book, you have when you find your flow, that's when you're in the right kind of stimulation.
mhm.
Like it's not being anxious and not being bored. You're in the
Mm,
sweet spot. And I
right.
think I find that personally in creating these podcasts, writing and editing and video. And I think that's one of the things that also would identify your personal core projects is to look back when you were as a kid, and
Mhm.
that will be something that you can be passionate about and work towards. So I think that looking back, that's what kind of kid I was. But I was shy too. I had those
Mhm.
self-esteem issues because of bullies, and stuff. I just want to give a quick reference back to Facebook. This guy shared
Yeah.
Carlos Franco. He's like, it was awkward. I had to learn to be more outgoing and communicate more effectively. It took some time. At my age now, I finally trimmed down the people I associate with.
Mhm.
Um, and I think this kind of says a lot. I like how you pointed about adulting.
Mhm.
Like as we grow older, we learn how to adapt. We learn how to
Yeah.
connect with people better, and in order to fulfill our jobs or to just go about the world,
Right.
right? People change, you
Mhm.
know. So yeah. But this guy was like saying romantic relationships are still a work in progress. I'll get back to you after a decade or so. Unfortunately, I don't have anything to say about romantic relationships as
Neither.
an introvert. Right?
I'll be waiting for that decade. Then he can tell us.
Thanks for listening, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Please do watch out for Quaderno episode 26, part 2. We're going to talk about handling relationships as an introvert, conflict resolution, all our tips to take care of yourself, and also our final message to empower you guys as introverts or extroverts. Really looking forward to see you on the next one. Please share this podcast if you believe this message will help other people. Love you guys. Bye.